On today's episode of the ThriveMore podcast, I interview Careyann Golliver. She's known as the Franchise Matchmaker. I have talked passively about franchising on this show and the benefits I believe in. And of course, I'm a partner in 2 franchise brands, but we really haven't dove into franchising. What is franchising? Who should franchise or buy a franchise? And honestly, who shouldn't buy a franchise? Careyann very candidly talks about franchising as a business, and being a franchisee. She's also been a franchisor, and now she's currently a franchise consultant helping people find the right franchise. But what I really appreciated about this interview is she just speaks very transparently and very candidly about this is the type of person that will do really well in a franchise if matched with the right franchise. And here are people that probably should never buy a franchise. And I think that's important information. And so here's our franchising episode. So if you ever had questions about it, she does a great job explaining it. Enjoy. Careyann is known as the Franchise Matchmaker. In fact, she's trademarked that, which I absolutely love. Her passion for helping entrepreneurs after she grew her local family Handyman business to the top-rated national franchise in the industry, the company became so successful that in 2019, it was acquired by the largest retailer-owned hardware group in the world, Ace Hardware Corporation. And still, just like millions of Americans, she worked for years in a business that wasn't all hers. She longed to build something that she could call her own and eventually found the courage to take the leap herself. And today we're going to talk about that journey. And we're also going to talk about really what is franchising. For the listeners who know, of course, I own or am a partner in 2 franchise brands, but I've talked very little about franchising specifically. And Careyann is a franchise consultant and an expert on franchising. So if you're curious about franchising, you've kind of heard me reference it. We'll go kind of into the weeds today. We're going to get into it and talk about it. And she is the person to do this. So let's start off with welcoming you to the ThriveMore podcast. Careyann, how are you doing?
Thank you so much, Roger. Fantastic. How are you?
I am doing really, really well. I love that over your left shoulder, remember your why. I love that sign. That's so important in life, and we can forget that sometimes.
Yeah.
You are known to many as the Franchise Matchmaker, and I know there's a story behind that one. So can we talk about your journey? And I love that you grew up in an entrepreneurial family. So let's go back to that and really start at the beginning and walk us forward if you could.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think everyone has their own journey that they can reflect on. And, our journeys take us to very interesting places that we would never imagine we would ever go, right? Which is also very exhilarating and exciting. So, prior to becoming an entrepreneur, I did what most people did. I worked in corporate America. I worked in sales and marketing. I worked with a lot of startup companies. Absolutely loved the vibe of a startup.
Why so?
You're creating something from scratch. You're nurturing it. You're testing it. You're tweaking it. And then you're taking it to the market and sharing it with the world. What I didn't love about startups was there was too many stops along the way with all those startups, right, Roger?
Sure.
There was always some Yahoo that would screw something up, right?
Yep.
Overspend on the budget, make someone mad. Who else was in charge? Whatever it was, sleeping with the secretary. I don't know. I mean, crazy stuff happens every day, right?
Sure.
And all the politics that surround corporate America and that kind of environment, it's stressful. I just felt like, gosh, every time I go and work for these people, I'm basically renting my time and talent to build wealth for them. And when things get tough, they don't care. I'm just a number, right? Even if it's a startup, I may be number 3, but it's like, well, time for Careyann to go, right? Yep. And so there was start, stop. And it was, really frustrating. And so I was in one of those stop modes and went over to my sister's and we were having a party, had friends over and, drinking some fine wine and eating some great food. And, my sister had just moved back to Colorado She had been out east with my brother-in-law. He was a restaurant manager for Chart House restaurants. I don't know if you've ever ate at a Chart
for
House
sure.
restaurant.
Many times. Yeah.
So, restaurant manager lifestyle, very challenging. Oh my gosh, right? 90 plus hours a week, every evening, every weekend, every holiday. So my sister was like, dude, I want to have family with you and I need you to participate, right? So we need to get back home to our family so we can have a family. So they had just recently moved back and he had struggled getting some jobs, and we were all just kind of sitting around, honestly, talking about what we wanted to do when we grew up,
Yeah.
which I don't think ever gets old, right?
No.
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
That was in the mid 90s.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. Mid to late 90s. And, probably quite a few listeners have also thought, what do I really want to do? I mean, I think back during COVID, right? I mean, that really forced a lot of us to look inward and do some self-discovery and really try to think about, is what I'm doing filling me or draining me, right? Because we've all now been smacked in the face with this, crazy virus from China. And we're like, gosh, nobody's promised tomorrow. We now have seen that in a very scary way. And so let's start living our life the way that's going to make us happy. So, so basically during that dinner with friends and family, my brother-in-law said, I know I'm going to start a business and I'm going to call it Swamp Boy. And first thing I said was, okay, cut him off. He's had too much.
Yeah, say another glass of wine. Yeah, sure.
Like, what are you talking about? And he's like, well, I fixed the swamp cooler on our house. I fixed the swamp coolers of various restaurants that I've worked at. And by the way, listeners who don't understand what a swamp cooler is, again, remember, going back in time, we were in Colorado, very dry climate. A swamp cooler is basically a poor man's air conditioning unit. It actually adds a lot of moisture in the air, which in Colorado we're very thankful for, and it cools down your house. And at that time, the house that they were living in had a swamp cooler that he was always fixing and repairing. And so he said, yeah, like this seriously can be a business. And so we literally, again, this is the late 90s. The next following Sunday, we put an ad in the paper, call Swamp Boy for your repairs and fixes for your swamp cooler. And by golly, Roger, the phone started ringing.
That's awesome.
Started ringing. I mean, literally, we put it in a classified ad. That's how long ago this was, right?
Yeah.
And so we were answering the phone and, sending Andy, my brother-in-law, out. He's a very charismatic individual anyway, so people loved him. He made my sister make him a uniform with an embroidered Swamp Boy on it, right? He's very, very, everything has to be perfect. People did not want him to leave.
Oh, jeez.
They didn't want him to leave. They're like, oh my gosh, you actually showed up. Oh my gosh, you're in a uniform. Oh my gosh, you're really nice. Hey, did you showed up on time? Can you do this for me? Can you do that for me? And so we were running this business literally out of the basement of their house back in 1997, 98, somewhere around there. And, he'd come back to the basement. He's like, Careyann, I don't know what's going on. Like nobody can apparently find anybody to do their handyman stuff. Like, this is crazy. People want me to do all this stuff. So it kept happening. And instead of telling our customer no, we were like, maybe we're on to something. Mm-hmm. So again, back in the late 90s, there was no such thing as a no call list. Remember when they used to just like huck those, like, I don't know how many reams of paper phone books in people's driveways, right?
Yep.
And so we literally called 300 and some people in the white pages. Wow. Randomly. Like, hey, how you doing? Do you have a handyman? Would you like to have a handyman? What are the things that you would like that handyman business to do for you? What are you willing to pay for that? We listened empathetically to our community and they told us what they needed. And we went. And so we basically morphed our, Swamp Boy repair business into a full-blown handyman business. So that's how we became Handyman Matters at that time. Actually, it was Handyman Express. And then it morphed into Handyman Matters when we hired real marketing people that could figure out, because handyman matter, right?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
matters. So it was a very, very interesting journey. And running it out of their house just was chaos too, right? So they lived in a cul-de-sac. Neighbors started complaining. We had to hire more Andys, right? And so we had a bathroom in the basement, and bathrooms really encompass carpentry, drywall, plumbing, electrical, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
we would break stuff in the bathroom, and that would be one of the tasks, right? Like, go fix what's wrong in the bathroom, right?
Oh my gosh.
We'd run background checks on them, and but pretty soon the neighbors were like, we don't know what's going on over there, but there's like people coming and going and all this. So then the sheriff came and knocked on the door and said, yeah, your business is too big. You got to move it out of the house. You're really making your neighbors mad. Like, good problem to have, but it was like,
Sure.
oh, geez, right? So then
Yeah.
we moved to a space off of Santa Fe and Evans. It literally had a garage door. You rolled up at the beginning of the day and rolled down at the end of the day. Nothing fancy, right? Because we never had customers come there. And so, it just kept, domino affecting and snowballing from there. And people that we knew were like, what are you guys doing? I want to be a part of this. And so we'd carve out some territory up north and say, okay, here's what we did. Here's some manuals. Call us when you have questions. Go hire your craftsmen. Good luck, And it just started replicating over and over. And pretty soon someone came to us and said, you guys ought to think about franchising this. And we were like, wow, what is that? What's
What
that
is
all
that?
about? Right?
Yeah.
So we learned about franchising, and we were like, darn right, we're going to franchise our family business. This is going to be amazing, right? We can let other people take what we did and build their own business and, have an asset that they own and employ people in their community and make an impact. So we franchised our business in the latter part of 2001. We were, the top rated handyman franchise for years and years and years. And in 2019, like you mentioned, Ace Hardware came by and said, hey, we'd love to have you.
That's
right?
a great
So
strategic buy for them. That's a great strategic buy for them. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's really kind of the cliff notes with a little
Yeah.
bit extra, peppering of what happened, but it wasn't planned. It was a very magical journey. It was pretty amazing, but it still wasn't all mine. And that was a big
Sure.
challenge for me.
Sure. What would you say was the biggest lesson that you learned during that ride, during that almost, I guess, 20-year ride, or a little bit over 20-year ride?
Well, I learned a lot.
Yeah.
Number one, don't go into business with family.
Sure.
No, I shouldn't say that, because we have gotten the band back together and we now own some other franchises together. But, it's challenging. I mean, the lines get blurred. You're sitting around at Thanksgiving dinner, you're passing the sweet potatoes, and you're talking about business all the time. I mean,
Sure.
I still have the letter my mother wrote begging me, please do not go into business with your sister. Like, this is going to break up the family forever, right? So, I think if you can do something on your own, you should.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's your best friend that you love and nothing's ever going to come. It's a lot of hard work.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it's a lot of, it's not rainbows and unicorns every day. It's very challenging. And if you really cherish that friendship or that family, it's better to keep it separate. I learned that was a big lesson for me. Another lesson I learned was when we were on the franchisor side, taking people, I ran our franchise sales department,
Mm-hmm.
and we're helping people understand this is how our business operates, and this is what you need to do, and this is how we make money. And we had our own, proprietary software that you have to use for estimating and scheduling. I was just shocked that, people out there just don't have a clue. Unfortunately, they leave it up to friends, family, and Google to tell them what a good franchise is to buy. This is an investment.
Sure.
It's a life-changing investment. And so
sure.
I was shocked, and I said, man, somebody needs to help these people, guide these people, because the problem is people just buy whatever they think is hottest, and then it might not be the right fit for them. And then they go, oh man, franchising sucks. No,
Yep.
it doesn't. You just didn't do your due diligence, or you just didn't pick the right fit for you. You know what I
Yep.
mean? So
Yep.
that was a big aha moment. I mean, we didn't sell our franchise to craftsmen because we needed people who were leaders, people that didn't tinker around out in the field. Right. And so that was a big aha moment for me, Roger, because I was like, society forever has told us, follow your dreams and then everything is great, do what you love. Well, that doesn't necessarily translate well in business. I mean, I really think that your passions and your hobbies should be on the sidelines, not part of your business plan. And you look at, if it is a business that you end up doing, it ends up being a vehicle that's going to allow you more time, more money to do the things that you're passionate about instead of the other way around. So that was also another big lesson, because craftsmen wanted to buy our franchise, but they couldn't read a P&L. They couldn't lead and manage people. They always wanted to be out in the field. And we needed people who were business ops minded people.
Who would grow the business, who would actually grow
the
the business.
Yeah. So that was another big aha moment for me.
Yeah, for sure. So for the listeners, again, because I have not gotten I have not gotten into this, define a franchise for people. And, there's even, we have people in Congress who are trying to pass legislation that they don't even understand what it is.
Yeah.
Can you, for the audience, please define what makes a franchise versus a licensed model, or like you said, a single operator, startup kind of thing.
Local mom and pop,
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah. So a franchise, what we did was we documented and built everything around processes. So we have an operations manual. We have technology, like I mentioned. We had our own proprietary software built specifically for estimating and scheduling craftsmen to go do jobs so that we could make money. I mean, when we were in the basement, nobody cared if we were successful.
Sure.
Our bankers didn't care. Our attorneys didn't care, right? And so we had to build all that from scratch. And it also costs a lot of money because franchising is highly regulated by the Federal Trade Commission for all the people out there's protection, right? So that you are truly buying a blueprint, a business model, operations, marketing, technology, training. I mean, I can't tell you how many marketing ideas we tested that we lost crap loads of money on, right? So our job was to make sure that nobody else made those silly mistakes. And we said, here's our marketing plan, and this is why it works. So don't spend your money on all these other things because they don't work. We already know that. So it's a business model that the franchisor who created that business has really ironed out all those wrinkles. So you don't have to create anything from scratch or figure anything out. You are handed over that recipe, right? So just like if I gave you Careyan's favorite, cinnamon cranberry chocolate chip muffins, and you were like, ooh, those sound delicious, but I don't like cranberries. I'm going to add walnuts, and I'm not going to use chocolate. I'm going to use, white chocolate. Your muffins are not going to taste anything like mine, right?
Yep.
So it's a recipe for a business model. Again, HR, training, support, marketing, technology, how the business generates money. It's already created. It's a business in a box, and you pay for that business in a box. So if you pay for it, by golly, you should probably follow it. Yep. But there are people out there that tend, they can't help themselves. They're like, yeah, I love this, but I'm going to, sprinkle my own self on it. And 99% of the time, it's not better than the proven model, right? Yep. So that's what a franchise is. And you're going into business. The franchisor is literally your business partner every day, all the time.
Yep.
And their job, hopefully, if it's a good franchise, is to get you to the World Series, right? Because it really comes full circle. Me being the franchise matchmaker, I kind of jokingly say, hey, we're going to match you up with franchise blind dates, and you're going to have some courtship, and you may or may not get to the altar, right? But really, it's because this is truly meant to be a profitable business marriage.
Mm-hmm.
They cannot expand and grow without you. You probably could not be as successful as them in speed to market without their model. So you're partners. and there's a give and take, there's a dance. And then hopefully, you both are going to soar to the sky and be very successful, right? So you don't have to have the vision. You just have to be able to follow the process. And if you can follow the process, you should be wildly successful at a franchise, as long as it's the right fit and you're not undercapitalized. A lot of other things go on with that. It's the right cultural fit. A lot of people don't think about that.
I'm glad you brought that up. Really glad you brought that up.
Yeah. So that's what a franchise is. You're buying the rights to that licensed blueprint to expand in your desired geographic area. And for that, you have to pay fees. You have to pay a franchise fee. You have to pay ongoing fees, otherwise known as royalties, that go full circle and benefit the entire system. A licensed agreement is, we have this business and it's going to cost you $20,000 and we're going to provide you 3 days of training, and then good luck to you. Let us know how, right?
Yep.
In many cases.
Yep.
Some of them often are pyramid schemes. You got to be really, really careful. Again, this is an investment. If it's $20,000 or $1, it's still a lot of money, right?
Yep.
So you have to really do your due diligence to make sure you have your eyes wide open, you know what you're doing. And a local mom and pop, believe it or not, those are great businesses. A lot of franchises actually help mom and pops that are struggling and can convert their franchise and help somebody who's ran a family business for 75 years finally peacefully retire and know that their customers are going to be taken care of, maybe even better than they took care of them for 75 years, right? So those are great businesses, but people don't want to work forever. I mean, they want to eventually retire, and it's always a nice, warm, fuzzy feeling to think, well, my kids will take over the plumbing business down the road, right? The kids don't want the family.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think right now it's happening right now as we do this interview. This time in our lives or in history, there's, from what I understand, the biggest transfer of wealth about to happen of the baby boomers who are saying, I'm out, I'm done. And the kids don't want that business. And they don't know how to sell those businesses. And because they are mom and pops, they don't have a operating agreement or operations manual. There's not a lot of documentation because the mother or father have just been doing it that way for 40 years and just know how to, and where, as you said, with a franchise, it's very standardized. So if you do decide to sell, you have something of value to sell.
You have an asset to sell for hopefully a very nice multiple, and it's going to be, profitable for you.
Hey everyone, as you know, I don't have any advertisements nor sponsorships on this podcast. My only ask of you, the listener, is that you share this podcast with someone that you know, a friend, a family member, a coworker, or a colleague who may benefit from this information, may benefit from today's guest, from the value that they're sharing with the audience, with you, the listener. When you share this podcast and our audience grows, it allows me to book more and more guests who have a great message, great nuggets of wisdom that you can benefit from, and again, your network can benefit from. So please, right now, push that share button, send it to somebody that you care about, and let's get back to the interview.
The thing that people need to be aware of is if you buy a franchise versus, let's say a resale, somebody in a painting franchise is selling their territory, that would be a resale franchise opportunity versus a mom and pop ABC painting business. When you buy that ABC painting business, those owners are going to take the money gladly and they're going to leave. When you have a question, when you have a concern, when something's not working, you can call them, but 9 times out of 10, they're not obligated unless you put something in specifically in a contract and they agreed to it. They're not going to be there for you. If you buy an existing territory in a franchise system, the franchisor is going to be there and help you rebrand it under new management, where, with a local business, you're on your own. You're on that island. You got to figure everything out on your own.
Yeah. Careyann, I've talked a lot generally about business on this podcast, and I often say business, especially if a franchise model is set up, really any business model is set up with standard operating procedures, with very carved out, here is the play. It can be simple, but it's not easy. Business is not easy. It is a full contact sport. Can you speak to, and you've been doing this for a while, and one, you've seen it on really
Both.
all sides, 360. Um, can you speak to the type of person that you've seen be very successful when matched, of course, when matched with the right franchise, be very, very successful? And of course, the counter question to that is, what type of person have you seen not be successful if they were still matched with a good fit franchise with them, but they just weren't successful? Can you speak to maybe the personality, the traits, or whatever that may be, where you've seen people just crush it and then other people not be very successful?
Yeah, I think, it really depends on, the personality, they have to be, a driver,
Mm-hmm.
right? They have to be, the franchisor is going to give you the recipe, but they are not going to do it for you.
Yep.
You're going to have to get up every morning and make it happen. And of course, if you have questions or concerns, you're going to reach out to them. Because they're going to be there for you, but you have to pull up your big boy pants and go get her done every day, because that's your responsibility. They are not going to do it for you. So I think you have to have a drive. And again, going back to the sign next to my head, really do a self-discovery of, why do I want to be a business owner? How is that going to make my life different? What am I going to be able to accomplish down the road as a successful business owner versus if I just go get another job, right? And I think that people need to be honest, because like you said, it is hard. If it was easy, everyone would be the CEO instead of working for one. And take my husband, he could care less. He likes to know that he has set amount of vacation days and he is working Monday through Friday, 8 to 6. And beyond that, no, as a business owner, you can't always end business at 6. Sometimes you got to be doing business on Saturday morning. Sometimes, so I think dedication, really taking the time to say, can I even afford this? Is this even the right decision for me and my family, or me and my spouse? Because, it's not, oh, I'll build it and they will come. You have to be kind of the mayor of the town. You got to be out there and get your personal megaphone out and let everybody know what you're doing. And so people that obviously aren't familiar with financials, P&Ls, building performas, understanding costs and COGS and that sort of stuff, they can learn it. We can match them up to a franchisor that has, strengths to that. But at the end of the day, you don't want to rely on the franchisor. You want to know what your numbers are. So people who are in operations, people who are drivers, people with a sales background, not that you're going to be selling whatever widget you buy in your franchise, but really those kinds of characteristics and personalities do very, very well in business ownership. They have like that fire in their belly. They want to have a purpose every day. Maybe it's to make a positive impact in their community. Maybe it's, to create a legacy for their children down the road. And that driving force drives them every day. So if they don't figure out their why, they're on a slow train to Nowheresville. Yeah. Because that's, when things get tough, there's not going to be any pain to go, hey, I can't give up. I've had a really crappy month or a crappy year, but I can't give up because this is who I am and this is what I chose to do, right? Yep. So someone who can really have perseverance and hear a lot of no's and keep moving forward. And so, if people get upset and then they go, in the fetal position and they stop spending their marketing dollars and they just get paralyzed, they need to get out of business if they are in one, or they need to never be in business if that's their personality, right? Yeah. And also, think about it. You are a walking billboard, an image, a branding of who your business is. So being a member of your chamber, going to business cocktail hours with other small business owners, are you going to be hiding in the corner, looking at your watch, waiting for, the minutes to count down so you can run to the parking lot, get in your car and go home and have your TV dinner? Or are you working the room and, you're just a butterfly and out there just mingling with everyone? Because those people that, put themselves out there, people are going to gravitate towards them, and they're going to want to help you build your business, and help find staff and help get the word out. If people can't hear you or see you, they don't know how to help you.
Yep.
People that struggle are people who don't like to follow other people's rules or boundaries or parameters, because that's what franchising is all about.
Yep.
People that have their own visions aren't going to be happy following somebody else's vision. And people who, spend the money. We had a franchisee, bought our franchise, came out to training. After a certain number of months, then we would send a field rep out to go check on the franchise, work with them in their community. We couldn't even find the guy. Couldn't find him at his house. Obviously, we were a home-based business. Couldn't find him around town. I mean, we were like, oh my gosh, did he die? What happened to this guy? And then finally he responded. He's like, oh yeah, that thing. Yeah, I changed my mind. I didn't want to do it.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Goodness. Oh my goodness. Yeah. He didn't even want his money back. He didn't even care. It was just like, oh yeah, that thing. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. People are people, right? We I don't know. So you are signing a contract. You are engaging in that profitable marriage partnership. You have responsibilities. They have responsibilities. You have responsibilities to each other. And if you don't feel like you can respect and honor those, then you probably should not be a business partner in a franchise, right? Your partners, it's not like they're up here and you're down here just because they created the model. You're even, and they depend on you to follow what you need to do, and you depend on them to provide you the tools necessary and the resources to do what you need to do. And also people, don't buy a franchise if you're going to rewrite the ops manual. Go hire a marketing firm outside that knows nothing about the business model because you don't like their marketing, because it's going to be a recipe for disaster.
Yeah,
really.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah.
I always like to ask, and I've looked over your shoulder. I've been sneaking peeks over your shoulder, and because we own some of the same books. Love Spin Selling, Neil Rackham, one of the best books on sales ever. We run traction in our organizations here in RockBox and Beem. 5-second rule, that was actually recommended to me by a member of a RockBox that I own. So it's so fun. I'm looking over your shoulder.
I met Mel personally. That was amazing.
Oh, wow. So I always ask, because people that listen to the show know I'm an avid reader.
Yes.
Is there a book that you've read, either it's just sometime in your life or even, or maybe recently, that you finished that book and Careyann, you set it down on your desk and you thought, wow, that hit me in a different way, and I'm going to do things a little bit differently based on this book. Is there any book that really had that effect on you that you could share with the listeners?
Yeah, I mean, a couple come to mind. The Entrepreneurial Roller Coaster.
I haven't heard of that. Okay.
Let me see. It's not in my bookshelf. Oh, the Entrepreneurial Roller Coaster. Yes, with Darren Hardy. Have you heard Darren Hardy?
I have heard of Darren Hardy. Yes.
Yes. I also met Darren Hardy. He's got a number of books, but that was one of my favorite ones. And it talks about from the very beginning and how business ownership is that up and down roller coaster ride that we just talked about. Like, it is not rainbows and unicorns every day. And just to stick with it and to believe in yourself, right? I mean, I think that was a huge takeaway for me when I read that book is, you believe in yourself, even if nobody else does. And to also be aware that, people, friends, family that you think would truly be so supportive may actually be on the sidelines and be jealous or envious and be like, and they're going to taint your ideas, or, you confide in them, I'm really thinking about taking the leap. What do you think? We want to get their opinion. And they're like, you're crazy. What are you talking about? And it's not because they really think you're crazy. It's because they're like, I wish I could do that. And I'm going to just make this sound horrible so they don't do that. So that I can be above that. You know what I mean?
I am so glad you said what so many people think but are afraid of. I'm so glad you said that on this podcast. That is an absolute fact that friends, family member, colleagues will they're silently, not everybody, but a lot of people will silently root against you because they don't have the courage to make the leap that you've made.
Exactly.
And your failure validates not having that courage when we should be rooting for everybody that we love and care for and know. I mean, there's hard science behind what you just said, where it's, and I don't even know if they're consciously doing it, but certainly it comes out as, negativity and they're
Yes.
dissuading people, because if you fail, then your friend can go to my spouse and say, yeah, I told her not to do it. That's, and it validates not having the courage to take that leap when we should be encouraging entrepreneurs to
Oh,
build our
yeah.
economy, make jobs,
It
Yeah.
is the heartbeat of America.
Yeah.
I mean, small business ownership is the heartbeat of America. It's truly living the American dream. And when you crush somebody's dreams, you need to be responsible for that. Yeah.
Yep.
It's just heartbreaking that happens.
Yep.
So that's definitely a few takeaways from that. And then obviously Michael E. Gerber, the E-Myth, the whole, work on your business, not in your business. Yeah. And again, that takes me back to the handyman days, right? Like, we don't want carpenters and drywallers to buy our franchise. That's not who we're looking for.
Yep. Gold, pure gold. Last couple of questions, and these are a little different. So we're gonna take a hard left turn here, but they're fun. And this one is not to be morbid. Somebody a few episodes ago were like, "That's a morbid question." I'm like, "No, that's not how it's meant to be." But if we were to fast forward, and you've lived this beautiful, rich, wonderful life, and you've accomplished, the things you wanted to. If we're at your funeral and you're looking down from above, and a loved one is reading your eulogy,
yeah,
how would you want them to describe you? But they could only, use up to 3 words. They can only pick 3 adjectives or ways to describe you. What 3 words do you hope that person would say to honor you?
I love that question. And I was a part of a female business mastermind, and we actually had to write our own eulogies.
Yeah.
That was one of our things that we did. It was very fascinating.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would say 3 words: excellence. I would say competitive. And I would say humble.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
And then the last question before we, I want to make sure the listeners know how to get a hold of you. If you had a magic wand, if Careyann had a magic wand and she could wave that, and we're recording this on a Tuesday, and on Wednesday, when everybody woke up, the world was different in one material way, how would the world be different according to Careyann?
Wow. I mean, the world that we live in today is got a lot of issues, right? So
you can only change it one way, unfortunately. Yeah.
And I just participated in this charity event for child advocacy event. And this was specifically, so all the donations went to this charity, and it's really to support and give safe space to children who have been sexually abused. And it brought tears to my eyes to hear that, the average age that this happens is 3 years old. And so this wonderful charity, when they get notified of what's happening, these families, they can't just move, right?
Yeah.
They can't just go buy a different house and change. They're stuck in that environment. And so they will go in and they will redecorate the children's bedrooms, paint them a totally different color. And what they're trying to do is overwrite those bad memories of what they visually see when they go to bed in their bedroom, or they go to play in their bedroom. And because it was astonishing to learn 96% of it is done by a family member. So that is something that, I would love. I mean, they're just so innocent, and they're just so deserving of so much better. I mean, they just have no idea that the world should not be that way.
Yep. Well, one, thank you for getting involved in that, because the world needs more people involved. When we're not involved, nothing changes. When we get involved, that's when real change happens. And man, my heart is heavy after you just said that. Wow.
I know. I apologize, but
no,
it's been on my mind ever since last week when I was at the charity, and I was just like, I couldn't even imagine the stats.
If we don't talk about it, nothing changes. You have to. This is the kind of stuff you have to talk about. Even though this is a business podcast, if we don't talk about this stuff, nothing in the world changes. That's what communicating and openly discussing things with transparency is how you start change. You start change. Yeah. So congrats on that. How can people? I know you put out information and you tried. I can just tell you like to educate your clients. So if somebody wanted to learn more about franchising, if they want to learn more about you or connect with you, how do they follow you? How do they find you?
Yeah, well, they can find me on LinkedIn, right? Mm-hmm. They can find me on Facebook, Instagram. My company is called Franchise Logic. My website is franchise-logic.com. So that's the dash. And, again, like you said, I'm known as America's Franchise Matchmaker. Anybody has any questions at all, even just general questions, about anything, I'd welcome the opportunity. In franchising, I would love someone to ask me a question I wouldn't be able to answer, right? Just because I have so much knowledge about that. But, I would love to, just if people want to franchise their business, let me know, been there, done that. So
yeah. Awesome. We'll put that in the show notes too, so people can just click on it and go right to the hyperlink. Yeah. Well, one, thank you for your time, and thank you for your expertise and just openly sharing. And I really appreciate you have this. I'm just going to tell you the facts. The decision is up to that person. I love that. I do that. And that just came across today. So thank you for sharing today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for tuning in to the ThriveMore podcast. Don't forget to take a look at the show notes for any of the resources that we mentioned during the podcast. And if you haven't already, be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on your notifications so you have access to the latest and the greatest. You can connect with me on any of the socials at Real Roger Martin. And be sure to check out our website, ThriveMoreBrands.com. There you'll find information on the brands we support and information on franchising. Thanks again for tuning in.